Okay, so close your eyes for a second and imagine this, all right? It's 1955. You're in Montgomery, Alabama.
Ooh,
You
okay.
step onto a bus, and there's this unspoken tension in the air, this
Yeah.
rigid order to where people sit. Jim Crow, right?
Right, right.
Today, we're diving deep into the heart of the civil rights movement. We're talking about two really remarkable women,
Okay.
Claudette Colvin,
Yes.
and of course the super iconic Rosa Parks. We're going back to the Montgomery bus boycott,
Mm-hmm.
uncovering some stories of courage and defiance
Right.
and the fight for equality.
And I think it's important to note, that we often forget that long before Rosa Parks' name was really known worldwide, there was a 15-year-old girl who took a stand.
Yeah.
Claudette Colvin.
Claudette Colvin.
Mhm.
And that's where our deep dive begins.
Ah.
Our source today is an episode of the My Favorite Murder podcast.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which, at first you might think, wait, a true crime podcast?
Yeah.
But trust me, this episode, it goes beyond the typical murder mystery.
Mm.
It really gives you this vivid picture of what life was like under segregation
Okay.
and highlights the bravery of, the people who challenged it.
Right. And I think it's also important to note that we very often focus on singular figures in history.
Yeah.
But the reality is that movements are built by countless acts of courage, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them go unseen, and Claudette's story is a powerful example of that.
Absolutely. So let's unpack this a bit, right?
Yeah.
Let's picture Montgomery, Alabama, 1955.
Okay.
Segregation was woven into the very fabric of daily life.
It wasn't just about separate water fountains or waiting rooms.
Right.
Although those were certainly present, segregation was really meticulously designed
Yeah.
to reinforce, white supremacy
Yeah.
and control every single aspect of Black people's lives.
It's wild.
Imagine being unable to try on clothes in a store, for example,
Right.
because of your skin color, or having to sit, in a designated section at the back of the bus,
Ugh.
regardless of if there were empty seats elsewhere. It
Right.
was just
These constant reminders, these
Yes,
constant reminders of inequality.
absolutely
Like pressed down on the Black community.
right.
Especially young people like Claudette. Now imagine this.
Okay.
You are 15 years old. You're heading home from school.
Oh.
You get on this crowded bus.
Okay.
You're exhausted from a long day. You're, maybe daydreaming about seeing your friends, maybe getting a burger, a milkshake.
Yeah.
And suddenly, the bus driver, he barks an order at you,
Oh wow.
demanding that you give up your seat
Wow.
to a white passenger.
Okay.
And all your friends, they're scared. They shuffle out of the way.
Wow.
But you refuse.
It's chilling.
It's chilling, right?
Yeah.
To imagine that level of courage at 15 years old.
Yeah. 15. Yeah.
So March 2, 1955.
Yeah.
Claudette Colvin, this petite, soft-spoken teenager, she becomes this symbol of defiance.
Wow.
She later said that she felt this like weight of history
Yeah.
on her shoulders.
Yeah.
Like the spirits of Harriet Tubman,
Yeah.
Sojourner Truth, pushing her down,
Wow.
giving her strength. This wasn't some random teenage rebellion.
Right.
This was a conscious decision
Yeah.
rooted in her, understanding of Black history,
Right.
her yearning for freedom,
Right.
and her defiance. This sparked the chain of events that would change the course of history.
Wow.
But before we dive into that, we have to understand the context,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because Claudette's act of courage, it wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of this growing movement,
Right.
for civil rights,
Yeah.
fueled by, tireless efforts of Black organizers in Montgomery.
You think about figures like Joanne Robinson,
Yeah.
a professor and activist
Yeah.
who had been documenting abuses,
Yeah.
that Black bus riders faced, and Edie Nixon,
Yeah.
a Pullman porter and NAACP leader.
Right.
They'd been advocating for change for years.
So they laid the groundwork for what was to come.
Right.
They recognized that, Claudette's arrest, this was a unique opportunity
Right.
to fight segregation head on.
Yes.
And that's where Fred Gray enters the picture.
Okay.
Fred Gray was, a young, brilliant attorney
Okay.
driven by this deep commitment to justice. He saw Claudette's case as a way to expose, the inherent unfairness
Right.
of segregation and ultimately to dismantle it.
Wow.
But Taking on this case, I mean, this came with risks.
Oh, yeah.
We got to remember, this is the deep South
Right.
of the 1950s.
Yeah.
Challenging the status quo,
Yeah.
Could have dire consequences.
Absolutely.
And for Claudette, they were immediate and devastating.
This is where the story takes a really heartbreaking turn. Despite her bravery, Claudette faced like this torrent of backlash.
Man.
I mean, you think about it. Local newspapers,
Yeah.
they painted her as a delinquent. Classmates, they mocked her. And to make matters worse, I mean, she was expelled from school due to a pregnancy, resulting from a predatory relationship with an older man. It's a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities and double standards Black women faced during this era.
It makes you wonder, right?
It does.
Would the movement have been as successful if, she had been the face of it?
I don't know. It's a tough question to answer.
Right.
It really is.
It's a reminder of the complexities of this era.
Yeah.
But one thing is certain.
Okay.
Claudette Colvin, she was a pioneer.
Yeah.
She ignited a spark.
Yeah.
That would soon engulf, the entire city of Montgomery.
And it, I think it also highlights her resilience.
Yeah.
Despite facing like immense pressure, personal challenges, she remained a key figure.
Oh, absolutely. In the fight for justice.
Yeah.
It's around this time that Claudette meets Rosa Parks.
Okay.
Through the NAACP Youth Council.
Right.
It's fascinating how, their paths intertwine.
Interesting, yeah.
Rosa Parks, she was expecting to meet, a big old burly teenager.
Oh, okay.
And she was surprised by Claudette's petite stature.
Wow, it's a small detail, but it really humanizes these iconic figures.
Right.
Yeah.
It reminds us that they were real people.
Yeah.
Navigating these extraordinary circumstances.
Absolutely.
And it also, speaks to the strategic thinking of the movement leaders at the time.
Oh, yeah.
They recognized that Rosa Parks, this respected seamstress NAACP secretary with her, quiet dignity, impeccable reputation.
Yes.
She would be this powerful symbol in the fight against segregation.
Absolutely. I mean, they needed someone, right, who would garner widespread sympathy.
Yeah.
Someone whose character was beyond reproach, And sadly, I mean, in the social climate at the time, someone like Claudette, a young, unwed mother facing, legal troubles, wouldn't have been seen as that unifying figure.
Right. So when Rosa Parks is arrested on December 1st, 1955.
Okay.
For refusing to give up her seat, on that Montgomery bus.
Right.
This isn't a spontaneous act.
Right.
Of defiance.
It's a carefully planned move.
This was planned.
Yeah.
To spark a boycott that had been, in the works for months.
I mean, you think about the Women's Political Council.
Yeah.
Led by Joanne Robinson.
Yeah.
I mean, they had already drafted, a plan for this citywide bus boycott. Just waiting for the right moment.
Yeah.
And Rosa Parks' arrest, I mean, that provided the spark.
The spark and that boycott, I mean, come on. It was monumental.
I mean,
thousands of Black people in Montgomery, they refused to ride the buses.
Right.
Day after day.
Wow. Yeah.
Week after week. They walk miles to work,
Yeah.
Organized carpools. Showed incredible solidarity.
Yeah.
I mean, the city's transportation system was crippled.
I mean, think about the logistics involved here.
It's crazy.
I mean, this is long before cell phones, social media, I mean, organizers, they spread the word through churches, through leaflets, word of mouth, relying on those deep connections within the Black community.
That's amazing.
It really is.
And then there's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
This young pastor, he emerges as a leader during the boycott.
Yeah.
His speeches, they're so powerful, filled with calls for justice and equality. I mean, they resonated across the nation.
They really did.
The boycott became like this national story, putting a spotlight on the injustices of segregation.
It really, I mean, the boycott's success showed the power of nonviolent resistance.
Yeah.
Showed the world that that ordinary people united in a common cause could bring about extraordinary change.
But even as the boycott was unfolding, Dr. King was becoming this household name.
Right.
Claudette was still fighting her own battle.
Right, because remember, she's still facing those charges
Oh, yeah.
stemming from her
Yeah.
arrest months earlier. And Fred Gray, I mean, he recognized her crucial role.
Yeah.
He files a federal lawsuit,
Okay.
Browder v. Gale, challenging the constitutionality of Montgomery and Alabama's segregation laws. And he asks Claudette to be a plaintiff
Wow.
in the case.
So even though she's just, given birth to her son
Right.
and dealing with, the fallout from her expulsion,
Yeah.
Claudette bravely steps forward,
It's unbelievable.
adds her voice
Yeah.
to this legal challenge.
Her testimony was critical,
I bet.
She recounted her experience on that bus, the humiliation, the fear, the injustice. I mean, it was a powerful testament to the human cost of segregation.
Right. And ultimately, it helps lead to like this monumental victory.
Absolutely.
The court ruled in favor of desegregation. The decision was later upheld by the Supreme Court. The Montgomery bus boycott, a testament to collective action and individual courage, had achieved its goal.
And it's important to note that while Rosa Parks became the face of the boycott, there were 4 other women, including Claudette,
Wow.
who were plaintiffs in Browder v. Gale, Aurelia Browder, Susie McDonald, and Mary Louise Smith.
Wow.
Each of their stories contributed to the legal victory that dismantled bus segregation in Montgomery.
So what happened to Claudette after all this? It seems like, her story kind of faded into the background
It did.
while Rosa Parks became this symbol of the movement,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, Claudette's life took a different path, She moved north,
Oh.
eventually settled in New York, worked as a nurse's aide
Oh, wow.
for over 3 decades. And for many years, I mean, she didn't talk publicly about her role in the boycott.
Well.
It wasn't until the late 90s, early 2000s that her story started to gain wider recognition.
It's amazing how long it took for her story to be known,
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how many other, like, heroes of the civil rights movement, we haven't heard about.
It's a good point. It's a reminder that history is often told from one particular perspective, and that a lot of voices have been silenced or overlooked.
Right.
Especially women, people of color, and Claudette's story. It challenges that. It forces us to really re-examine what we think we know about the past.
And she never stopped fighting for her own truth.
No, she didn't.
She gave a quote to the Chicago Tribune, and she said, "Let the people know Rosa Parks was the right person for the boycott, but also let them know that the attorneys took 4 other women to the Supreme Court to challenge the law that led to the end of segregation."
It's so powerful,
Yeah. Yeah.
She acknowledged Rosa Parks' crucial role while also like asserting her own place
Yeah.
in history. She wanted her contribution to be recognized.
And it's crazy to think that assault charge, from when she was 15, stemming from her bravely refusing to give up her seat.
Right.
It stayed on her record for decades.
It's a stark reminder of the lasting impact
Yeah.
of injustice and the way that the legal system was often used to punish those who dared to challenge,
The status quo.
the status quo. Yeah.
Yeah. But Claudette, I mean, even after everything she'd been through, she never backed down.
No, she didn't. And it wasn't until 2021, at the age of 86, that she finally had that charge expunged
Wow.
with Fred Gray, the lawyer who had represented her back in 1955 by her side.
That's amazing.
It's a testament to her resilience.
Yeah.
And her unwavering determination to clear her name.
I think it's so inspiring, to think about all the quiet heroes, we don't often hear about.
Right.
The ones who stood up for what they believed in, even when it was, difficult.
Right.
Even when it meant facing, like, personal consequences.
Absolutely.
Claudette's story, I mean, it's such a powerful reminder that even, like, seemingly small acts of defiance can have, this ripple effect.
They can.
Inspiring others to fight for what's right.
It's true. And her willingness to challenge the status quo, to put herself on the line, I mean, it helped pave the way for so many others.
It makes you think, right?
It does.
About how, like, one person's courage, it can spark a movement.
Yeah.
How individual acts of, resistance can contribute to a larger fight for justice. It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating, a more just and equitable world.
Absolutely. And it also reminds us that the fight for equality is far from over. We still see echoes of the injustices of the past, in the present. And we can all learn from Claudette's courage and her determination as we continue to work toward a better future.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this incredible story, what's one key takeaway you'd like to leave our listeners with? What's the one thing you hope they'll remember about Claudette Colvin?
For me, it's her youthful defiance
Yeah.
and her unwavering determination. I mean, imagine having that much courage at 15.
I know.
I mean, her story is really a microcosm of the larger struggle for civil rights, demonstrating how seemingly small acts of resistance can ignite significant change.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what resonates most with me is that she never gave up on herself,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Despite facing, tremendous adversity, she continued to fight for justice, both for herself and for others. It's a powerful reminder that change doesn't happen overnight,
No, it doesn't.
and that it often takes, a collective effort, courage,
Hmm.
a willingness to make sacrifices, even if they go unnoticed.
It also reminds us that history is complex, right?
Right.
And that there are always multiple perspectives to consider,
Yeah.
and we should strive to learn from all those who contributed to the struggle for justice, even those whose stories have been overshadowed or forgotten.
Claudette Colvin's story is a testament to the power of the human spirit, the courage to stand up for what's right,
Hmm.
and the importance of never giving up on the fight for equality.
Her story also reminds us that the past is never truly past.
Yeah.
The events of the civil rights movement, I mean, they continue to shape our world today.
They do.
And it's up to each of us to learn from those who came before us and to continue the fight for justice and equality in our own time.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the extraordinary life of Claudette Colvin. We hope you've enjoyed this journey back in time, and that you'll continue to explore the rich history of the civil rights movement and the stories of those who fought for a better tomorrow. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.